Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There we go. Welcome to the Teachers Retirement System Board meeting for June 21st, 2018. Tricia, would you please call the roll?
John Adler.
I am here.
Thomas Brown.
Here.
David Kazansky.
Present.
Raymond Orlando.
I am sadly here for the last time.
Thank you. Deborah Penny.
Here.
And John Dorsa.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So I'll turn it over to Tricia to walk us through our agenda here.
Okay, so next on the agenda is an update from TRS operations from Kavita Conwell.
Thank you, Patricia. As of June 19th, TRS has received 953 retirement applications that are effective July 2018 and 61 retirement applications effective August 2018 for a total of 1,014 summer retirements thus far. This number is slightly higher than the 998 summer retirements that we received last year at this time. The latest issue of TRS's member newsletters have been mailed to members and are available on the TRS website. Benefits report was mailed to approximately 84,000 retired members, and in-service news was mailed to approximately 125,000 non-retired members. The newsletters are published twice each year in the spring and the fall.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is a report from the actuary.
Sherry?
Thank you. The first item is the fiscal note report. There were two fiscal notes that were issued between last month and this month. One of them had to do with COLA, and the proposed legislation was to increase the cap from 3% to 5%, so that the COLA could exceed 3%. And this was an interesting fiscal note to price. I might have spoken about it last year, but in the past 10 years, the average CPI had been 1.6%. So because the COLA is 50% of the CPI would have had to been above 6% for this proposed legislation to come into effect. And the last time the CPI was above 6% was in the early 80s. So we couldn't necessarily just look at past data to price this. So what we did was we looked at a one-year shock, assuming that the CPI went up to 8%, so that the COLA would be, half of that would be 4%, so it is above the 3%. So what is that delta between a 1% change in COLA? And for teachers, it ended up being $15.5 million in contribution just for that 1 year. And COLA is very expensive, so just a 1% shock produced that amount. The second fiscal note was changing the World Trade Center disability to 75% for the members and teachers who currently aren't receiving 75% disability. And based on the data that we got, the increase in first year employer contribution would be approximately $62,000. That's just because not a lot of people currently have that disability, and the ones that do are pretty close to that 75% of FAS. The next item on my agenda is the Tier 3, 4, and 6 loan insurance rate. So as you might know, members can borrow, take a loan out on their contributions, and if they pass away while the loan is still outstanding, then the beneficiaries, the benefit that would go to their beneficiary would be reduced by the loan amount. But this insurance, when it's purchased, would basically replenish the outstanding balance so that the beneficiaries would not be hurt. This is a rate that's tacked onto the discount rate when calculating the payments to repay the loan. And since inception in 1991, this rate has been at 0.2%. There's an analysis that was passed out to the board. The outstanding balance right now, based on the cash flow in, the premiums that come in, the payments that go out upon death, the balance that remains is approximately $1.5 million right now. So that is a good reserve, and it is recommended to be kept at 0.2% as the loan insurance premium rate. It will be reviewed more extensively within the next year alongside the TDA, because this rate is only for QPP. Are there any questions? No? Okay. So there's a resolution, but that's in the executive director's report. And then the third item on the list is the internal rebalance of funds. That was discussed, I guess, earlier this month at the the passport fund meeting here. And I guess there were some questions that were answered. There is the memo that was passed out to the board, and also there's a resolution that will be in the executive director's report. But if there are any questions, I can entertain them here now. If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Chan. I think it's time for the executive director's
Okay,
report.
right, next is the executive director's report. First on there is the manner of the next meeting, and it has been suggested that the next regular meeting of the Teachers Retirement Board be held on the third Thursday of the month, September 20th, 2018. We're off for the summer. So
Some of
everybody
us
should,
are off for the summer.
well, just from a meeting
Aye.
standpoint.
Just making a lighthearted comment.
Yes.
Jealousy do know that.
So just mark your calendars.
Yeah.
Second on the executive director's report is the authorization to the controller of the city of New York to invest certain funds.
Could you please waive the reading?
Okay.
So we have in front of us the authorization to the controller to invest certain funds for a period of 3 months. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Any discussion?
It's a great idea.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsa, for expressing your opinion. All in favor of the motion to approve the resolution regarding the authorization to the controller of the city of New York to invest certain funds for a period of 3 months, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Next is the authorization to the controller of the city of New York to invest certain tax-deferred annuity funds.
Please waive the reading.
Okay, so now we have this resolution authorizing the controller to invest certain tax-deferred annuity funds for a period of 3 months. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion?
Another good idea.
Oh, another good idea. Thank you, Mr. Dorsa. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to authorize the controller to invest certain tax-deferred annuity funds for a period of 3 months, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Next is to authorize the rebalancing of funds.
Please skip to the resolve.
Resolved in accordance with the analysis of the chief actuary, the board authorizes the TRS staff to effectuate the internal rebalancing of approximately $75 million in assets from the qualified pension plan to the passport funds in accordance with the actuary's analysis.
All right, is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to authorize the rebalancing of funds in accordance with the analysis of the chief actuary, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. And Ms. Riley?
Okay. Next is the request for the retirement board to adopt the actuary's recommendation regarding the tier 3, 4, and 6 loan insurance premium rate for fiscal year 2019.
Please skip to the resolve.
Resolved that the retirement board hereby adopts the recommendation of the actuary as stated in her report dated June 2nd, 2018, and stipulates the tier 3, 4, and 6 loan insurance premium rate be continued at its current rate of 0.20 per annum of the outstanding loan balances for any loans originating during fiscal year 2019. For example, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsa. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to adopt the request for the retirement board to adopt the actuary's recommendation for a tier 346 loan insurance premium rate of 0.20% for fiscal year 2019, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay. Next is applicable interest payments on death benefits and payments after death.
Again, please skip to the resolve.
Resolved that interest on death benefits shall commence on the 61st day after the later of the date TRS is notified of a death, or the date any deficit associated with a payment after death has been satisfied. Interest will continue until the earlier of the date the death benefit payment is issued, or 6 months following the date on which TRS sends death benefit information to the beneficiary, or 5 years after the date TRS is notified of a death, and be it further resolved that the current rate of interest shall continue, except that such rate shall be determined from the date of notification of death rather than from the date of death. Resolved that payments after death will accrue simple interest of 7% in accordance with the policies adopted by the executive director, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect upon adoption by the executive director of any required policies and procedures and the development of necessary supporting benefit administration technology, being contemplated that provisions of this resolution will be implemented in phases.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Orlando. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr.
I
Kaczynski.
think everyone should second the motion.
Okay, so let me just first ask, is everybody clear on what we're doing with this resolution? Are there any questions about it? Okay, everybody gets it. That's good.
Yep.
So any further discussion other than questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the resolution concerning applicable interest payments on death benefits and payments after death, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Next is attendance at a conference. Resolved that the trustees of the Teachers Retirement Board hereby approve the attendance and participation of the executive director and/or her designees and any interested trustee at the Mayor's Office of Pension Investment Conference from October 2nd to October 3rd, 2018.
Is there a motion? Oh,
So moved.
thank you, Mr. Brown. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Any discussion?
So I just have one item that I raised at another board that Mr. Ablett is aware of. In cases or instances where the folks that are going to this conference represent the mayors and the mayor or the controller's office, where we have multiple people in each of our organizations that are designated to sit as trustees, that our offices at least be thoughtful as far as attending conferences and whether or not we're overbilling, not overbilling, but sending multiple people from one retirement system to the same conference. And if two people from MOPI, for example, or the controls office go to a conference, perhaps not both going as members of TRS for purposes of expending money on behalf of the system. So
You'll spread the word.
yeah, so we've raised this issue at another board, so it's just something we'd like to memorialize it in the minutes, and just let people know we'll be mindful of that as we go forward.
Isn't this John's conference?
Yeah, the point is.
The point is not this conference. Yes,
It's the conference.
Yes, it's conferences in general.
We don't stand multiple people from our office.
Doesn't
or
just
from
apply to
controller's
John's
office, just from teachers,
Yes.
since we're trustees on multiple.
Yes, I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I don't think you're making a
No, I'm not an amendment. It's just making a point.
Just making a point, as per usual.
Excellent point.
Any further discussion? Okay, motion's on the floor. All in favor of the motion to approve the attendance and participation of folks at the MOPI conference, October 2nd to 3rd, 2018, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Next is attendance at a conference. Resolved that the trustees of the Teachers Retirement Board hereby approve the attendance and participation of the executive director and/or her designees and any interested trustee at the International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans, the 64th Annual Employee Benefit Conference from October 14th through the 17th, 2018.
So, is there a motion? Thank you. You beat me to the punch, Mr. Dorso. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion?
John doesn't have to do his thing again. That was the blanket thing.
No, it's just
Blanket. Okay.
Just a second. All in favor of the motion to approve attendance at the IFEBP conference, October 14th to 17th, 2018, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, next on the agenda is the calendar. And the first item is the matter of the approval of the minutes for May 3rd, 2018 TRS Investment Meeting, May 17th, 2018 TRS Regular Board Meeting, and May 21st, 2018 TRS Common Investment Meeting minutes.
So let me just say that I sent Liz a couple of minor issues from the minutes. So I would just propose that we adopt the minutes with these changes noted. One is that Rosa Polanco's name was misspelled in throughout the May 17th regular board minutes, which is when we approved our budget. So she was a frequent appearer in those minutes. And then second was at the May 21st TRS Common Investment Meeting, Phil Dukes was not listed as present representing the mayor, and he represented the mayor. So just want those two things noted in the minutes. Are there any other comments or changes for the minutes? Okay. So we do one motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't, oh yeah, right there. Okay. So can we get a motion to approve the May 3rd investment meeting minutes, the May 17th regular board meeting minutes, and the May 21st TRS common investment meeting minutes?
so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsa. Any further discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
Okay, so next are the items on the calendar. You all received your electronic version of the calendar items. And I think at this point, just make a motion to open the back.
Yeah.
That's a great deal.
Please waive the reading of the calendar
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
so that we know.
We have the calendar in front of us. Can we get a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion of the calendar? All in favor of approving the calendar for June 21st, 2018, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. So we have a few items of other business, right?
Right,
First is
so-
board meeting dates.
Yes, so the next item is to finalize the board meeting dates for next.
For next year. And there is one issue that I have, and which the controller's office has, which is the date for the investment meeting, which was originally scheduled for May 2nd, was pushed to May 9th. That conflicts with another system board meeting that the controller's office and the mayor's office must be present at.
Well, I guess they'll just have to pick their favorite. Carefully.
So do we need to resolve that today, or can we do that via email or something?
We can do that.
Okay. So, and we don't need to approve this through a motion, right? Okay. So please note that
For your
that meeting
information.
date will be changed before the calendar is, or the board meeting dates, not to be confused with the calendar, is finalized.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so next we have a presentation on modernization from Bob Gray. Bob, you're up.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have been invited here to talk about modernization at TRS and answer any questions you may have about it. Good. It's been a while since we've talked about modernization formally, so I thought that I'd start out by framing what modernization at TRS is all about, and then getting into where we are and where we're going. So when we started the modernization program at TRS, we thought that our objective was to replace our obsolete pension administration system, UPS, but we came to realize that that's really only part of it. That the real goal of the program is to take advantage of the opportunity presented to us by the need to replace that system to really transform the way that we're delivering our products and services to our members and to increase the value that we're delivering to our membership. And how do we do that? Well, it's not only by building a new processing system, it's by overhauling our processes and realigning our organization. This holistic approach to implementing TRS's vision of what the future is going to hold in terms of our processes, systems, and the products that we're delivering is what's allowing us to achieve the success in delivering the main objectives of the program. And those are a new up-to-date website for our members so that they can go on anytime, 24/7, that's convenient for them, to look at information about their account or to initiate real-time transaction requests with us. No longer waiting around to file one of the 200+ pieces of paper that we have to get something done, or waiting until our business hours to call in with our questions. The second objective is to automate the end-to-end fulfillment of the members' transaction requests. Get them pushed through the system as fast as possible. If there are exceptions, of course, we'll drop them out to be manually handled and reinserted back in, but if the system has everything that it needs, if there are no exceptions, and if the results of that processing pass our reasonability checks and controls, the member is going to get what they want in the optimal turnaround time frame. Our customer service ethic at TRS has always been excellent, but with the implementation of Aspen, we're going to be able to take that to a new level. Right now, we do solve problems when they come up. The member asks us to do something, and we have a problem, an exception, we resolve it as quickly as possible and pass it through. In the future, we're going to be able to detect those before they crop up during the fulfillment process, and a lot of times before the member even asks for transactions. We'll be monitoring the data, looking for deficiencies, and where we need the member's help, we'll be pulling the member in so that they can provide what we need from them before they even would feel the impact of the deficiency. We're building a data warehouse. We built a data warehouse. We're filling the data warehouse. And we're providing our business units with a data visualization tool, which is sort of a whiz-bang reporting that goes beyond anything you've seen before, that's going to allow them to access that data and slice and dice it any way that they want to support their analysis of ongoing membership data and ongoing delivery data for how we're delivering our products and services to the member. It's an eye towards supporting the continuous improvement of the processing and the way that we're delivering products and services to our member. And the last major objective is technical. We really are looking to take advantage of the evolution and the advances in technology to significantly minimize the amount of effort it will take in the future to maintain and enhance our system. So how are we going about doing it? Well, we're a modernization program, and a program is a collection of projects, and I'm going to fill up this page with all of the modernization projects that make up TRS's modernization program. So the first project is to do with re-engineering our processes, visioning what those processes are going to look like in the future. We have a product management team that's examining everything that we do to come up with the best way for doing it in the future. We have, of course, the Aspen development project. We're putting together that new application system, we're testing it, and we're phasing it into production. we, at the same time, because it's a phased implementation of the new system, we have to refactor, we have to change the old system and bring down pieces of the old system as the concomitant pieces go into place for Aspen. We have an independent quality assurance arm, a whole group of testers who are out there to rigorously test not only the functionality that we're building in the system, but to test that against the new procedures and processes that are being developed to make sure that that functionality supports the new way of doing things. We have data. We have years and years worth of data in our old system that has to be migrated over to Aspen, and we have a data readiness team set up to do that migration. By the way, they're also cleaning up any problems that we have with the old data to ensure that when the data is in the new system, we can trust in the integrity of that data, which supports that end-to-end straight-through processing objective that we have. We have an operational readiness team because just getting the system ready doesn't mean that everybody's ready to use it. So the operational readiness team is reaching out to the TRS organization, the TRS stakeholders, and the TRS membership to make sure that when we're implementing phases of modernization, everybody's set for it and is operationally ready to be able to use that. We have an organizational change management component. This deals with the human dimension of change. Nobody ever jumps up and down and says, oh boy, the new system is here, because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. But by putting together a program that enrolls everybody in the change, that makes them part of it, helps them to adopt it, and for a project this size, I have to say, my personal experience, I've never seen a project with such a minimal negative drumbeat. Everybody here is excited about what's coming along, and they really do feel that they are part of it. We have a data governance program in place. The data migration, the data readiness team, as I said, is making sure that we're taking data from our old system and a one-shot deal, we're getting it into the new system so we can trust in the integrity of the data. The data governance program makes sure that we're monitoring that data against the standards that we've set, fixing any issues with that so that we can continue to trust in the integrity of the data in our system. The infrastructure team is responsible for all of the environments, all of the many environments and the cables and the routers and the routers and the many thousands of technical components that are required to support a program of this size. We also have a data warehouse that I talked about before that lets us go in, take data out of the production system and make it available for slicing and dicing and all sorts of analysis and visualization. Project risk management. Internally, our risk department is working with each one of these projects to identify the specific risks with those projects, the risks between these projects, and help them to mitigate them or the other offsetting factors that we do with risk. We have a project management office because when you have a program management office, because when you have a program of this size with this many projects, you do need a central place that's coordinating the activity of all of them, making sure that the interdependencies are working correctly and that any issues that are coming up are being resolved in a timely fashion. And last but not least, we have the independent validation and verification component. It's that consulting firm that produces reports to the board about how we're doing, and I must say we're finding value in those reports too because it's an extra set of eyes that's looking at the forest and not totally immersed in the trees. So what are the progress that we've made? That's what our program's pretty much all about in a nutshell. Since we started, I do want to point out that the old board gave us partial funding to get this thing started with the condition that we not spend it on anything that wouldn't be reusable if the new board decided not to fund modernization. This kind of hamstrung us for a little while we were moving through the initial phases and then talking to the new board about modernization, because we were expecting to go full boat into the project, but in December of 2014, we got approval for the entire project and we've been moving full boat since then. one of the first things that we did was we had to stand up the infrastructure, which was no small task. Apart from all of the employees that we have working on this, we have over 100 consultants that we brought in to work on this initiative to make sure that it gets delivered on time and on budget. And that infrastructure has to support everybody who's testing, developing, quality assuring, writing procedures, making sure that we're operationally ready. And again, the fact that it's stood up and maintained is a credit to that infrastructure team. We've been averaging one implementation phase of fiscal year since we started the project. Phase one, we stood up that website, that new redesigned look and feel modern website that's intuitive that our members can tap into, and we continue to build on that with every phase that we put in. The second phase that we put in was all about the demographics, the basis for what the system has to do. All the information about our members, what tier they're in, what plan they're in, who their beneficiaries are, that we're going to use in the later phases to deliver the benefits that they ask for. We also put in a customer relationship management component of our new system. It drives everything that the walk-in center and the call center are doing. In phase three, we took care of the enrollments, the force-ins, the voluntary enrollments, the waivers that various people have for why they don't have to be enrolled in TRS, and we introduced LexisNexis validations as one way to protect members from fraud. Now we're reaching out to LexisNexis to get information, to compare it to what people are giving us, and ensure that what we have in our database is something that we can trust in and trust that we have the right member. In phase 4A, which we implemented this fiscal year, we did another safeguard. We introduced dual-factor authentication as a login, which has become the industry standard for ensuring that we're protecting members' PII and we're protecting them from fraud, other people logging into the website in their name. We also introduced a tool that allows our public information office to maintain the 225 non-login pages of information on the website without having to take IT resources to do uploads and testing and some of the technical things that they had to be involved with. We, as I said before, we have extracted, transformed, and load production data from each one of these phase deliveries from Aspen into the data warehouse, and the businesses are busily going about using that data to support analysis, to look at how we're doing, what's happening, and to predict what we think is going to happen in the future. We're also, because it's a multi-phase and a big project, we're not just working on this one phase at a time. So we're working on, at the same time as we worked on phase 4A, we've been working on phase 4, which is to do with non-periodic payroll. That's every disbursement we generate other than retirement disbursements, death benefits processing and giving the beneficiaries what they're entitled to, and all the banking functions that are required to support that. And this sets us up for all the other non-periodic payroll functions in the future, loans, withdrawals, etc. We also are introducing an online payment function, brand new. Members can go online and pay bills that they have at TRS with a credit card, a debit card, an EFT, rather than their current way that they can or adding to the current ways that they can by sending us in a check or taking a payroll deduction. We're in SIT for phase 5, which is all about retirement payroll and the supporting functions that are necessary there. And we are also developing for phase 6, which is the benefit calculation and delivery for the other types of products and services that TRS has. So there are many moving parts here. We're not single tracking by phase. We have different teams working on different phases so that we can continue to deliver with the schedule that we've set for ourselves. I think one good way to measure this is the way that an agile project looks at the effort that it takes to get something done is by story points. And we right now have completed 50% of the story points associated with our Aspen development, and we've expended 48% of the budget. So where are we going? Well, where we're going is based on where we've been. We're going to continue to do those fiscal year implementations of the remaining phases of the project, and we're expecting that sometime in the fiscal year 2021, actually the beginning of calendar year 2022, we'll have completed the modernization initiative. We can completely turn off UPS and tie a bow around this and move into the enhancement and maintenance phases of it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you for your time listening.
Questions for Bob? I have two questions.
Okie doke.
One is my lack of knowledge. What does SIT mean?
Ah, gosh, you know when they told me to avoid acronyms here. System integration testing. We're putting together a whole lot of functionality for the system, but it never works in a vacuum. We need to make sure that the functionality integrates with each other. So like I said, we've developed demographic functionality to capture base data about the member. Well, we have to make sure that integrates with the functions that use that base data. That the retirement functionality is looking at the member's tier when it's calculating the retirement. That the loan payoff functionality is referring back to the loan origination functionality when it's calculating how much is left to pay off. So that's what it stands for, and it's a whole separate phase and the real shakedown of the system. And we do that before we turn it over to the users for user acceptance testing.
Got it. And then the credit card, so we're going to be enabling credit card payments. Will members have to pay an additional fee to use the credit card?
You know, I'm trying to remember what we decided on that point, and I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the members are going to pay the additional
members are going to pay the
for the
fee.
credit
That's
card.
pretty standard in the city,
Yes,
what the city
very
does.
standard in the city. Yeah, I
So
was just curious about
we will pick, because every type of transaction, there is a fee associated with there. It's, I think for an EFT, it's $1. We're absorbing that.
You charge for it. Oh, you're not charging for
No,
the EFT.
no, nobody charges for the EFT in the city, but they do charge if they use the credit card, which is the fee that the vendor
Credit card
typically
company
pays.
charges, right. Your car gets towed if you use a credit card. That's non-refundable.
Yes.
I happen to know that from experience. Okay. One last question. So Sagitech is the system integrator that we're working with, right? I don't know if that's the right term. Is that the right term?
Yeah, well, Sagitech is the software company whose base product we bought and who we're building. That framework is what we're building the system around, and we're collaborating with them. Because part of the thing, I didn't bring this up before, but one of the things that we're doing in this project is it's a collaborative approach, a blended team approach. Right. So it's Sagitech and TRS that are the system integrators.
That's really getting to my question. Once all the phases have been implemented and we're in the maintenance and, I don't know, maintenance and improvement, is that the right?
Enhancement.
Enhancement. Close. Does Sagitech still have a role, or are they out the door at that point?
Sagitech is out the door mostly. We would sign a production support with them because, again, we're using their base framework, and just to get nerdy technical for a minute, we like their framework because it has a lot of different technical components worked into it, and we don't have to worry about upgrading and maintaining those separately. So we want to have a production support agreement in place with Sagitech, but in terms of the development work, coding for putting together whatever program changes we need to address new legislation or new board requirements. The reason for the blended teams is that our teams are learning during the project so that by the time the project's over, they're up to speed and we can say goodbye to the consultants. Similarly, every other component of the project, because we're piloting a methodology for enhancement here and maintenance, with the quality assurance, we have a quality assurance expert firm in helping us, but by the end of the project, because they're blending with TRS resources, we can say goodbye to those consultants. We could say goodbye to the operational analyst consultants that are helping us to be operationally ready. So we've taken that blended team approach with every one of the program components. Right. so that at the end of the project, yeah, we can kiss all 100-something consultants goodbye.
Right, okay. And so, but with Sagitech, the only ongoing thing is the product upgrade stuff, like when they do new releases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes,
Right.
that's the sort of thing that
Yeah.
we would sign
Okay.
a maintenance agreement for.
Right, perfect. Okay, thanks, Bob. Anybody else have questions for Bob besides me dominating the floor here?
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you so much. Great presentation.
And I think, am I also, if anybody has questions about the,
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up
Oh, okay.
now. So, we sent you an electronic version of the IV and V report. I mean, the one item that I'll bring up front, that I see in there that I think may raise questions is their concern about misrequirements as part of, they felt that we had an abundance of misrequirements during this during ITG. So once
During
we
ITG.
SIT?
SIT. ITG is the old word. SIT. So I wanted to point out that once that we became aware of those concerns, we did a deep dive into all of the issues that were raised and put as misrequirements, and what we found was that those were miscategorized because the testers they didn't have a category they felt that met what the problem was, so they just started dumping things into this misrequirement category. But when we did the deeper dive, it became evident to us that we had very few misrequirements, and we've reported that back to the IV&V vendor. It didn't make it in time for this report, but it would be reflected in the next report. So that was his one of the major concerns I saw he had, and that was the response to that. So you should see in the next report where he addresses the fact that they were in fact not actual misrequirements. Because misrequirements are the worst thing you can have, because that means if you're all the way at testing, that means you have to go back and you have to start programming things from the beginning, and that's the most costly kind of testing issue you can have. And we were concerned, and when we did the deep dive, we saw that was not actually what was happening. Not to say we don't have issues, but that it wasn't as bad as that IV&V report indicated, and you'll see that in the next report. Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
no.
Okay. But do you have any questions from your reading of the report?
Any questions regarding the
On the
IV&V? Very, very complete.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, and now I have another item. Thank you, Bob. Is so we received a request from I don't know where it went.
Here, I think,
Here I have it. Oh, thank you. So Pepter is back. So
you gotta explain what PEP is.
some of right. So Pepter is the Public Employee Pension Transparency Act, and is being reintroduced by Congressman Devin Nunes, and he's looking for co-sponsors for the legislation. And the last time that this legislation was being considered, Teachers Retirement sent a letter in, along with many other retirement systems. So PEPTA would require, mandate state and local pension plan disclosure of their liabilities based on the U.S. Treasury bond rates. It requires the Secretary of the Treasury provide these disclosures to the public through a searchable website. It eliminates the federal tax-exempt bonding authority of state and local governments that do not comply with PEPTA requirements, and it makes it explicitly clear that the state and local pension obligations are solely the responsibility of those entities, and that the federal government will not provide a bailout. So what we're asking here is whether we have the board's approval to send a letter saying that we're not in favor and we're of PEPTA.
So we would send a letter to whom?
We send it to
Congressional delegation and asking them not to sign on
So
to
the
legislation.
whole New York or New York City congressional delegation, like the 2 senators plus all the
right.
Congress people who represent New York
Right.
City. That's correct.
Right.
Great. Okay. Any questions or discussion about this? Nope.
Is this something you want to take care of today?
Yeah, why not?
No, I was just asking.
I just want, because we want to get the letter out, because this could
It's in
happen
process.
quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
This just for background, this legislation has been around for, I would say at least 6 years, maybe longer. Nunes has been pushing this, and I would say public pension community as well as the public employee union community has been fighting against it since it's been introduced, because it, honestly, I would say I believe that the objective of this legislation is to undermine support for public pensions. That's all it's all really about. Can we have a motion to approve TRS sending the letter, with the specifics introduced that apply to TRS to the New York congressional delegation?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kazansky. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Penny. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to authorize the system to send this letter to the New York congressional delegation, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
So now we're up to questions or comments from the public.
Right.
Any questions or comments from the public? So before we entertain a motion to enter executive session, I would just like to recognize, as he earlier alluded to, that this is Mr. Orlando's final board meeting as a trustee representing the PEP on the board, and I just want to say that it has been a pleasure for me personally serving on this board with Mr. Orlando, and I think he has played a tremendous role in supporting the work of the teachers' retirement system and supporting the members of the system, as well as the rest of the board in advancing the system's mission of serving the active and retired members of the teachers' retirement system. I know I will miss him personally, and I think the board will miss his acuity and humor. But I am confident that Ms. Oates, his future replacement, will also be a great member of our board. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything.
On behalf of the teacher trustees, it's been a pleasure to work on this board with you, and we wish you all the best in all your future endeavors, whatever they may be. And please keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good luck.
Delighted to.
And the controls also echoes those sentiments, and thank you for all your service, and not just for fun, but to the city through all the years. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that we do have a cake for you.
Yeah, I'm pro cake.
So
I support cake.
But we do not eat the cake in public session.
Okay. I support that too.
So those of you who have to leave for executive session, if you want to just hang out and come back and have a piece of cake,
Let them eat
just to
cake.
celebrate the raise for this new award.
Okay, with that, I think a motion to exit public session and enter executive session would be in order.
Good idea. I move pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, to go into executive session for discussions regarding specific contract matters.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Penny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to enter executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. We are back in public session. Susan, would you please report out of executive session?
Yes, in executive session, several investment-related contracts were renewed. Consensus was reached, which will be announced at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much. With that, I think that concludes our business for today. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Orlando. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstention? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
Great.